Hello, I am Selena Nguyen, and I will be the moderator for today's podcast. Many of you guys may be familiar with this topic because of media portrayals such as the movie Me Before You. Today, we will be talking about assisted suicide, where many guest speakers will be discussing the pros and the cons over this controversial topic. Today, we will be starting with the pros.
So I will begin with the moral arguments for why assisted suicide should be legal. In a case study, there is this woman that went on vacation and got in a car accident that caused a fire. She wasn't able to get out of the car on time, which resulted in her getting 4th-degree burns. When she was taken to the hospital, she requested for the physicians to let her die. But due to assisted suicide not being legal, she suffered through traumatic pain and ended up getting an infection that ended her life. So in these certain situations, a person should be allowed to request for assisted suicide because it's their moral right to end their lives when they don't want to go through the pain. Another topic I want to hit on is DNRs. A DNR is a legal document a patient is allowed to sign, allowing the physician to not resuscitate the patient, which is basically letting them die. If this is legal for a physician to stop giving medical help to a patient, then why isn't it legal for a patient to ask someone to help them commit suicide? In many cases, a patient is usually unable to commit suicide on their own due to certain disabilities. So in this case, a physician should be able to help end someone's suffering.
And now we will be presenting the cons.
Alright, so about that case study where the woman went on vacation, got into a car accident, and the fire unfortunately caused really terrible 4th-degree burns, and she was in a lot of pain. It really is an unfortunate situation that the woman had to go through that, but you need to consider the side of the family and the physician as well, because morally they will be affected by her passing as well, and you can't really ignore the trauma that they will unfortunately face as well. It really is a hard situation, but my stance is that you need to consider the thoughts and the feelings of those around you and how they will be affected as well.
So addressing the legal side of this issue, it is really hard to justify the legalization of physician-assisted suicide in the United States. Assisted suicide does not fall under the Due Process Clause in the Constitution. Also, only 7 out of the 50 states do legally allow physician-assisted suicide, meaning 43 out of those 50 states deemed it to be illegal under all circumstances. A perfect example of this situation is Myers versus Schneiderman, in which I'll be calling an expert on this subject, Professor Sidney Belinbin, to talk about the following court case. So, Professor Sidney Belinbin, how do you feel about this court case?
So basically, in the court case Myers versus Schneiderman, basically the New York Court of Appeals denied the argument that a human has a constitutional right to die. They also ruled that this argument does not violate the U.S. Constitution. They even used specifically a specific term called aid in dying. Basically, the statutes do not prohibit aid in dying as a matter of law. They even quoted other law cases such as Mass versus Cornell University and Connaughton versus Chipotle. They even tried to use some constitutional claims such as due process clause and equal protection clause. Basically, this relates to our argument that the judicial judgment of the New York Court of Appeals already provides substantial evidence that assisted suicide is not only unconstitutional but outlawed. They quote-unquote, the judicial judgment of the New York Court of Appeals already provides substantial evidence that assisted suicide is not only unconstitutional but outlawed, and also stated that suicide is strictly outlawed. The fact that the right to die is not guaranteed under the fundamental document of our country is evidence in itself. All rights guaranteed by due process clause and equal protection clause can be considered as evidence against the right to die.
Is that all?
Yeah.
Alright, thank you for your time, Professor Sidney Belinbin. It was a pleasure talking to you.
It was a pleasure to burn.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming to today's podcast. If you think the pros won, please text pros to 81010. If you think the cons won, please text cons to 81010. You will find out the results in next week's episode regarding the legalization of marijuana. Thank you for tuning in.